Hello, my friends. Just yesterday, Russia started an aggressive attack towards the Ukrainian village of Novopavlivka. They even entered this settlement with 10 of the vehicles, landing infantry forces. They lost some of the vehicles on the way, and today we have the confirmation that all of them were kaputted. And just some of them were lucky enough to surrender. Let's watch some of the images from the place. Yeah, sorry, I had to apply my own censorship for this platform. Those are not flatlined Russian soldiers, but those who surrendered to some of the Ukrainian warrior or the group of the warriors. And those who did not surrender, well, their destiny is no-go. Russians also tried to advance to the same place with the second wave, but all of their vehicles were just demolished. So this rapid attack, which Russians tried to commence under the cover of fog, yes, kind of the poor weather conditions, it completely failed. And Ukraine was even capable to trophy one of the vehicles, BMP-1KH trophied by Ukraine. It looks, let me show you, like this. That's how it looks. Yeah, it's kind of the outdated BMP infantry fighting vehicle, uncomparable absolutely to Marder or Bradley, but still it's better to have this one. Could be used in some way, yeah. So this area is confirmed with the Russian losses, with the Russian surrendering to Ukrainian side. Absolutely great. That's why I like the map from the Myko 73, because you just click on everything of that and you have reference to Telegram channel usually, or to Twitter, where there is kind of the low censorship and you may see all of the data. The link for this military map you may find in the video description below. Also, yesterday I told you that Russians crossed this river here. Well, actually it was a little bit mistake of mine. Russians crossed this river. And let's go to the 3D map. I want to show you where Russians went in. So this is the Novopavlivka village. Russians advanced from Dachna. They crossed this river actually under the cover of fog. They climbed ahead and went forward to reach Novopavlivka. They occupied the part of the village temporary, and later on Ukraine sent its infantry forces and lots of the drones, kicking them out completely from this place. Yeah, Novopavlivka is kind of important because behind it there is the uphill to reach the plateau. Well, in real life it's not that steep, but still something like that. So Novopavlivka is still on the flat ground. So in general, Ukraine can have the positions here to repel Russian attacks, to operate with the drones. So higher ground is always better. The Ukrainian army here reacted quickly. We'll see if there are any more attempts of the Russian army to reach the same settlement, Novopavlivka, in the nearby future, because again the weather is kind of foggy. Now let's go to not so good news. Russians are putting their flags elsewhere in Danilivka. This is the Zaporia Oblast. It's bordering Dnipropetrovsk, and also in Novoalexandrivka, in the village of Hai, they put their flag. Well, so far it could be like a local flag operation. Just one infantry guy was spotted. Actually, the same guy was spotted in two of the positions. He was filmed here, he was filmed there, but we know that Russians sent more than one soldier to this area. They also continue to operate with the drones, since Russia presented some of the drone images, and unfortunately for the last few days, the Ukrainian army has losses in vehicles. Danilivka here on the south, it was confirmed that Russia reached this road, which is connecting Alexandrivka and Pokrovsk, yeah, with southern villages and Hulaypole itself. So this supply connection is being cut. The only way for Ukraine to receive supplies to Hulaypole is using this road. And that unfortunately requires for Ukraine to reorganize the entire defense. So this is Pokrovsk on the top. Hulaypole is now under the threat, connection lost. So you have two of the separate lines here and from the south. The only connection is possible is via this road between those, yeah, which makes it more difficult in a way. Also, for the last 24 hours, Russia moved gradually to reach Zaporia with the gray zone, yes, but it's the substantial movement. You see, lots of the fields were occupied. To understand this move, we need to go to this map of the same analytic. So it was confirmed also by the deep state military map that here it was updated. Russia took those fields with the main forces also on the south, but the gray area expanded towards Zaporia, and Russians are very, very close to Hulaypole. I guess they will occupy Vesel and Zeleny High very, very soon. Also Vysoke village, and after Zaporia, that's straight way to Gulaipole, which is used to be the main supply hub for Ukraine and the defense spot of the eastern Zaporia region. So yeah, it's very, very complicated. That's what I'm saying here. It's the honest analysis, my friends. I'm telling you the things as they are. At the beginning of the video, I usually tell about positive news, as it happened with that failed attack. But from my side, you will see the truthful information. I'm not making up the stuff. It is really happening. We can see it on independent analysis, yeah, those analytics. And I'm not like this Ukrainian commander Manko, colonel commander of the assault forces of Ukraine, who say that we stopped Russians, we stopped everything. Again, every day he records those kind of the videos, and people just hate him. You know, Ukrainian military, Ukrainian officers, Ukrainian volunteers. He is now this iconic Ukrainian incompetent commander, and we are making fun of him. Ukrainians, yeah, we're making fun of him because he posts absolutely bullshit, and before he leaked some of the secret materials to TikTok. As for me, he would fit perfectly into Kadyrov's army, even with his beard style and with the nonsense he speaks out there. So every Ukrainian, like here is Sternenko making fun of him, and the fact that Sirsky keeps this colonel on his position, oh my god. This is terrible, guys. Really terrible. Well, guys, let's try to predict what it's gonna be here. I think the same as in Pokrovsk. Russia now mastered the infiltration tactics, so they will get closer to Gulaipole and they will try to send some of the infantry even across the river, because the river is kind of thin here. So at first they'll occupy this territory, and then occasionally some of the blocks, some of the streets, some of the households, and finally they'll infiltrate the entire Gulaipole and they will use it as their supply hub to advance further. And after Gulaipole we have this defense line that goes over here, and Russians will also try to penetrate it somewhere in Priluki, advancing from Rivnapila, which has been occupied recently. And there is the freeway to Zaporia. Zaporia is over here, not really far away from the place. And here I cannot show you this video, guys. Here Ukrainian soldiers unfortunately were trapped. They surrendered to Russians but were unalived. There was the drone video published, so Russians continue to commence their war crimes, and this battalion Ruzzians, the Russian Nazi battalion, really Nazi battalion, they published on their Telegram page that if you send us those kind of the videos, we're gonna pay for them. You know, the videos with basically where they cancel flatline Ukrainian soldiers who surrendered, so they're cheerful about it. I mean, a Russian Ruzzians battalion, and they are willing even to send some sort of the crypto. So they're gonna pay for those terrible images. So Ruzzians is one of the absolute barbarian battalions out there in Russia. They're totally inhumane and Nazis. Yeah, they're Nazis fighting for Russia. And they do Nazi stuff. Ukraine doesn't do those things, but Russians, they do. By the way, the Finnish court jailed Jan Petrovsky to the life term in prison. He was accused of the war crimes. He left the Russian Federation to Finland. Somehow he was caught there. Ukraine tried to negotiate the extradition of Jan Petrovsky, who was a founder, one of the founders of Ruzzians battalion, back to Ukraine, but Finnish court refused, and now it's the final verdict, life term in prison. Yeah, Finnish court sentenced Ruzzians leader Jan Petrovsky to life imprisonment for war crimes in eastern Ukraine. They commenced those war crimes unaliving not just Ukrainian military servicemen, but also local civilians. Also, Finnish court deported back to Russia one of the ex-Wagner mercenaries who went to Finland and tried to ask for political asylum. So here he goes, screams something. He says, no city will stand our force. So he is definitely pro-Russian, and finally he was deported back to Russia, where he will face criminal investigation for his betrayal. Could also obtain life term in prison, by the way. Well, since he was fighting in Ukraine against the Ukrainians, Finland here did a great job. After all, Russian prison is for those individuals kind of harsh compared to the Finnish one. Right, let's go back to the military map update. The problem that here Russia already crossed the main defense line of Ukraine, so they have the opportunity already to move towards Zaporia, and they're attacking quite fast in this area. They move fast, let's say, every day by several of the kilometers, occupying some of the villages in the north and the south. They're also quite close to Pokrovsk. Than just a couple of months ago they were very far away. Also, the fight is ongoing for Oristopol. Russians are using lots of the gliding bombs. Actually, they may cross the river here, the river of Vovcha, and advance to Pokrovsk from two of the sides. Is it possible? Well, yeah, from this side, they might go. There is the river that divides Alexandrivka and Pokrovsk, but they already crossed it, or tried to cross it in Velika Mikhailovka, and from that village they might go to Pokrovsk, cutting this supply line, also posing the threat for Ukrainian group in Podharlivka and Andriivka Klevtsova, those two main villages here. Yeah, it's kind of concerning, knowing also that Russia sent some of the reinforcements to this place. And just right now we have a new update about the Ukrainian successful counterattack in Kupiansk. Well, you see that Ukraine lost some of the vehicles, but Ukraine tries also to counterattack. This has just happened, so we don't have this information on the map. However, we have the video itself from the ground. Here we go with this video. There was the Russian convoy. Yeah, again, tried to attack Ukrainian positions. 1, 2 of the vehicles, maybe 3 somewhere there. Here Ukrainian warriors say that they spotted light armored vehicles on the way to our positions, all of them probably MTLBs converted into the Hunger vehicles. Later on, Russia sent some of the very light armored vehicles, or it's better to say unarmored vehicles. Those are the Dragon Ts, let me show you. Yeah, they tried to penetrate the Ukrainian defense there. Yeah, Russian army uses even regular vehicles for attacks, which is crazy, but they do it. Yeah, again, the Dragon Ts out there, and very tight bottleneck for the Russian vehicles, and they were stopped there. Well, maybe again there was some sort of the fog in the morning, but the weather improved. It may improve rapidly, like in a matter of minutes. 1 minute you have a thick fog, and later on it disappears completely, opening the sky and the opportunities for Ukrainian drones to reach Russian vehicles. Well, it was reported that it happened in Kupiansk direction, but where exactly, whether it is somewhere close to the city or maybe over here, so far it is not yet been identified. Now let's go to the Pokrovsk direction. Russia is using aviation gliding bombs, and you see that Ukraine mainly withdrew the forces from the southern area, which is good. I consider it a very good move from Ukrainian command, but still Siversk keeps forces in Mirnograd, and it is very, very risky, because just recently Russians went across between the village Haryshina and Mirnograd itself. Well, here Ukraine still keeps control over the part of Rodinsk. Well, we'll see how it goes. The bottleneck here is very tiny for Ukrainian forces to evacuate without losses. So for sure, it is now not possible to not have the losses upon evacuation. I honestly do not understand why Ukrainian military command waited till this time. And the counteroffensive operation, as it was planned towards Chervony Liman here to cut this Russian flank, well, it didn't work simply because Ukraine has less forces. There was an attempt to cut it, but it didn't work. And now Russia appears more reinforcements here in an attempt to close this bottleneck. But, Russian military bloggers and pro-Russian bloggers, they report that they already closed this bottleneck like 2 weeks ago or something. But no, Ukrainian army is physically without encirclement, but the operational encirclement with the enemy fire is over there already for the very long time. But still there is the chance for Ukrainian army to move out, especially using bad weather conditions. I think that it should be done very, very fast. Otherwise, it could be very late, and if Ukrainian group of the soldiers, they're not thousands of the soldiers, but hundreds could be, and just imagine them being encircled, it could be a great demotivation factor for Ukrainian army in general and for Ukrainian society. If Russia would show those images of our guys being surrendered to them, it will confirm the incompetence of Ukrainian military command, especially if Russians would start to do some war crimes as they do. I hope that they will not do it, but you never know with Russians. It is just terrible what they do on the front lines. Against Ukrainian soldiers, against civilians, it is crazy. In Konstantinivka, everything is pretty much standard, but Ukraine lost quite a lot of the vehicles. That's what I'm telling you, that for the last few days, the losses in Ukrainian vehicles skyrocketed, even compared to the Russian ones. Unfortunately, Ukraine tries to counterattack in some of the spots, and that leads to more losses. Yeah, it was on the way. Ukraine tried to send reinforcements, and this tank was chased by the drone. Two of the tanks, as it was confirmed by analytics, geolocated, and one more tank and one more tank. So Ukraine needs more vehicles because, yeah, here one more vehicle. And unfortunately, Russians are moving forward, and they're using drones here elsewhere, also behind Konstantinivka already. And there is also one more issue, that Russia extended the drone range for the fiber optic drones up to 50 kilometers. Yes, now they have those coils, kind of big coils, but they allow those drones to fly for a very, very long distance. It is very bad. Ukraine is also working on those technologies to boost the production of the fiber optic drones, but for now Russia has advantage in that. Well, Ukraine has advantage in the ground drone usage. Ukraine uses those drones for evacuations, for blowing up Russian positions, for multiple of the purposes. The ground drones are used by Ukraine everywhere. Let's go back to the front lines. Here near Siversk, there was the small counteroffensive operation of Ukrainian army, where some of the Russians were even imprisoned. GIA confirmed, yeah, at least one of the Russian soldier was there, and he surrendered to Ukrainian group. And Ukrainians, they never do those kind of the crazy stuff as Russians do to Ukrainians. I mean, war crimes. For Ukraine, it's important to imprison actually Russian soldiers, because there are many Ukrainian soldiers in the Russian captivity. It's called an exchange fund to get Ukrainian guys back. Alright, Lyman direction, there was the light movement of the Russian army. Here they entered this forest with their main forces, and for Lyman, everything is not so good. Lyman will be occupied. There is no way Ukraine may defend this city because of the lack of supplies. I already told you the story with those bridges which were bombed by Russia. So for now, for Ukraine, it's very, very hard to get something into Lyman. I just found a video with some of the use of the ground drone. So here it is. The ground drone, it goes into some sort of the underground dot position. It just sneaks there and kabooms the entire place. Nothing is left. So guys, those events are pretty much main ones which happened on the front lines. Two kaputted Russian attacks, convoys, those are the good news in general, yeah. But Russia still gains the territories, especially in Zaporia. Mirnograd still holds Pokrovsk, mostly occupied, but also partially holds. There are a couple of the streets still left fully under Ukrainian control, and Russians cannot physically encircle Ukrainian group, closing the bottleneck. Those are good, bad news as usual. And more with my next update. I'm gonna probably record the video in the morning, and if you want to support my job, I film daily. Now I film 2 videos a day. I decided to experiment with that. So if you want to support my job, please follow me on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description just below, or on membership of the channel. Press the join button somewhere here if you really have this opportunity and willing to support my channel. If not, just press like to this video and subscribe for the channel. That is how you boost the video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much for that as well. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.